you an explanatory paper on conspiracy theory discourse with a 9/11 case study. So the questions, the underlying questions are they always unreasonable, these conspiracy theories, or may they be important forms of speech? So the problem is that usually maybe dismissing conspiracy nuts from the start may be harmful for society because society is also susceptible of bandwagon fallacy, which means that we just tend to follow whatever the common opinion is without actually independently researching the facts. And this is fueled and encouraged actually by mainstream media in that it puts out a very homogeneous form of information. Why is 9/11 important? Well, we feel the effects today in the way that there are still wars going on in the name of like fighting terrorism. Citizen surveillance is intensifying, and very actual now is net neutrality restriction, which means a restriction on flow of information. So what is a conspiracy theory? Basically means that powerful people enact secret plans, they conspire together, not letting other people know to achieve a certain goal. These have happened for all of history, from ancient Greece to ancient Rome to this day, and they are often manifested in what are called false flags. So false flags are events that are blamed on some enemy and that are used for war or to enact laws of control for the citizens, among the citizens. And these are some examples that you can see to the right that have been confirmed. There are also all of the official documents that you can access yourself on the internet to look it up. And one in particular, one of the most recent ones, were the anthrax attacks of 2001. So anthrax is an illness, is a bacteria that causes a very severe disease. 17 people got ill and 5 people died in the United States. And these biological attacks were blamed on Iraq, but actually was USA scientists who had done them and then spread them on some letters and then sent the letters to senators and to other journalists in the US, for example. But here are a long list of false flag attacks that have been confirmed that you can go check out. So why are then conspiracy theories so stigmatized? It turns out that it was a CIA strategy to counter the dissent that was happening around Kennedy's assassination. So this is a cable, this is a New York Times article that shows how the CIA sent out this cable, this memo, that basically says, oh, we have to basically call everybody who doesn't agree with us conspiracy theorists nuts, so that the discourse around these issues is going to die down and is not going to put us in a bad light, because there were a lot of people who were contesting the Warren Report, which basically said, okay, Kennedy was assassinated in this way, no more discourse on it. So it is basically an institutional blame game where the mainstream media is the number one ally. You can access also the very CIA cable directly on yourself, by yourself, and it will tell you that it basically says, oh, we are going to contract mainstream media operators and booksellers and editors to make sure that the narrative is consistent along the board. Okay, so what is our main topic today? I'm going to start with Building 7. So most people think that in World Trade Center in New York, it was only 2 buildings that fell. It was actually 3 buildings. And the 3rd building fell symmetrically onto its own footprint at free fall speed. And so we're going to analyze a little bit of that. So this is, in the next video that we're going to show, is the video from the government, so from NIST, which is the Standards and Technology Governmental Agency, and this is the explanation that they give.
Falling debris from Tower 1 started fires on 10 floors in Building 7. A break in the city water main from the collapse of the towers disabled sprinklers in the lower half of WTC 7, allowing fires on those floors to burn for 7 hours. The NIST computer model was validated with evidence from videos, photos, witness accounts, and other data. It shows that heat from fires expanded long support beams, causing connections and floors to fail.
So you look at the floors failing here, and eventually this column 79 is going to buckle, it fails, and then the entire vertical progression takes place.
The buckled column caused additional collapsed floors and falling debris that removed support from adjacent interior columns. A chain reaction then caused other interior columns to fail in quick succession. The outside shell of the building fell.
Okay, so a lot of people said that this was very strange because NIST itself falling due to fire. Usually what architects do is they build the building so that even if a plane hits them, even if there is a fire, it remains intact. There have been buildings that you can also look up that have burned for far longer and far higher temperatures, which have not collapsed for this instance. So there are a lot of things that are like not really sounding well here. For example, there is symmetric fall at pre-collapse despite asymmetric damage. So the debris that fell hit the building on one side, but the building didn't fall like that. It fell like that. So that also makes you think. And then this building had been insured 1 month before by Larry Silverstein, who received like a bunch of money for like rebuilding it. And then it also housed a New York City Emergency Operations Center. And so a group of scientists and engineers called Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth did an independent investigation to actually look into something that actually looks strange. And so he said, okay, let's look into this and let's see like how, what we actually think. Well, it turns out that the most probable explanation, which NIST didn't even consider, was one of controlled demolition.
It took months to prepare the structure for the placement of the explosive charges. Months.
These are comparisons of Building 7 with actually demolished buildings that had explosive charges in them. And you can see how the way that the building is falling is very resemblant of controlled demolition. So this guy that you see here, he's Michael Ketchum. He used to work for NIST, the governmental agency. And after 15 years since 9/11 happened, he said, oh shoot, I had never looked into this. And then he went and saw like the NIST investigation and said that it was a complete fraud because the explanations that the government gave were absolutely far from the laws of physics, and they did reverse scientific methods. So they adjusted events to fit a conclusion, which is not the way to go about an investigation. So for my paper, I emailed one of the main members of Architects and Engineer and asked for the latest research on the specifics of where their investigation diverges with that of NIST. And he sent me a bunch of sources, original, written by him and another investigator, that point out to some of the things that are not working so well. So 2 examples. The fires were not nearly hot enough to cause the expansion that they said that they would cause, and they said that it was all started by one column, and the guy says, well, they basically give the explanation in terms of, oh, and then all the building fell. But this beam, which was supposed to expand, they didn't draw pieces of the building that were supposed to keep that beam there, and they did not release the original drawings. And there are many, many other instances of that kind. So basically NIST corrected itself and won't release the in-depth study because it says it's against national security. So why do they think that it's a controlled demolition, and why do they think that there were explosives put not only in Building 7 but also the Twin Towers? They collected samples from the dust that covered Lower Manhattan after the attacks, and they found elements of nanothermite. Nanothermite is a component that melts steel, like basically a knife through butter, that it used, for example, to like seal metal pieces or break railways, or it was used like in Agent Orange in Vietnam War. So they found these elements in the dust, and NIST said, oh well, there were no explosions because we didn't find any evidence of it. And then they said, did you look for it? And then they said no, and they said, we didn't even hear explosions, and there are many videos on the internet where you actually can see the tower exploding. And so here then is a video that will show you how the building is actually exploding. You can see that there are ejections coming laterally. Gravity works vertically, not laterally.
Explosions coming out of windows.
And there was just dust. There were no big pieces
Huge
of stuff.
chunks of steel perimeter beams flying hundreds of feet off to the side.
They did not find big pieces, big chunks of building, it was just dust. And so they have extensive as evidence of.
I'm sorry, you just said that big chunks were coming off.
Huh?
You just said that big chunks of steel were coming off.
The chunks of steel, the metal beams that were broken through the explosion were coming off, but If you watch the whole documentary, I highly recommend it. They give an in-detail explanation, not just of the explosions, but of the larger story. And so the conclusion is there are groups of people with PhDs. The group counts more than 2,000 architects and engineers who have signed the petition and who are doing this research, who are asking, based on the evidence, is it sound to confront the official narrative on 9/11, especially in a time where now the consequence could be even more war in the name of anti-terrorism, even more surveillance on citizens, and even less information due to the restrictions on net neutrality. Thank you for listening.